Alright, this is the sound jar demo makeup video. What we have is at the bottom of the picture, there is a vacuum pump that will plug in and turn on and will start sucking air. Just like a vacuum would, it sucks up air and any particles that are in the air or in your carpet, for example. What's at the top of the screen is a glass jar that's covered in an orange netting. That netting is to prevent any glass should the jar break, because we're going to change the pressure in the jar. If that were to break, to prevent the glass from flying all over, that'll catch it. The black thing that you see inside the jar, that's a little buzzer. That's, once we hook it up to this battery, it will start to buzz. And we are going to then take the air out of the jar using our vacuum pump and see what happens to the sound. So that's the setup. So right now, pause the video and write down your thoughts, your prediction of what is going to happen to the sound of that buzzer if we remove all of the particles from the jar. Alright, we now have all of the parts in place. The motor is running, and as you can see, this tube, it's got some suction. We're going to go hook it up to that orange jar that's now buzzing. You can hear it. Alright, so we're going to hook that up and listen to the sound. We just hooked it up and listened. And the sound is faded. I'm now going to take it off. And the air is allowed back in, and that sound comes right back. So one more time, we take all the air out of it with our vacuum pump. You're listening to the sound of the buzzer. And it's barely audible now. Then we take it off, the air returns, and so does the sound. So, your second part is to record your observations of what happened. Make sure you include what happens for the first part when I put it on, what happens to the sound. That sound gets quieter and quieter. And the second part, you need to include what happens when we get the air particles back in there. The sound comes back. Circle if your prediction was correct or not, and then explain in your own words how it works. Remember, you need to include that it's the particles in the jar that allow for us to hear the sound, because sound energy cannot travel unless there are particles that it moves through. So we take all the particles out with the vacuum, and there's no more particles for that sound energy to travel through. The buzzer is still going, even when it gets really quiet. It's still going. It's still hooked up to the battery, but because there are no particles in that jar, in the air, it can't travel to our ears. It can't get to us because there's no way for it to travel. It has to have particles. So make sure you have something like that in your explanation, and that is the conclusion of the sound demo jar. Thanks.